Do you hear it? The thundering flaps of mysterious wings, the breeze that follows, the red eyes that stare back. Legend tells of a terrifying flying creature dubbed the Mothman that has mortified countless Point Pleasant residents throughout the 1960s. When a bridge mysteriously collapsed in the area, the creature was blamed for the deaths of 46 people. So where does the legend start, and is there any truth behind the tale? On November 12, 1966, a group of gravediggers hard at work in Glendenning, West Virginia, noticed something out of the ordinary. They glanced up from their ditches to see something massive soaring overhead. It was darting from tree to tree. The gravediggers later described this entity as a huge, brown-winged human being. The gravediggers were scared, which says a lot considering their occupation. They had no idea what to make of this winged beast. That's the first reported sighting of the Mothman, an elusive creature that remains just as frightening and mysterious as it was when the first few witnesses laid eyes upon it. Just 3 days after their initial report, witnesses in the nearby town of Point Pleasant noticed a winged creature about 6 or 7 feet tall standing in front of a car they were in. Eyewitnesses Roger Scarberry and Steve Mallett told the local paper at the time, the Point Pleasant Register, that the creature donned a 10-foot wingspan, red eyes, and an urge to avoid the headlights of the vehicle. According to witnesses, the creature could fly at a ridiculously fast speed, upward of 100 miles per hour. The beast chased the witnesses to the outskirts of town, and then it ran into a field and disappeared. They knew it sounded absurd. A flying giant moth with red eyes terrorizing cars. Scarberry assured the paper that if he had seen it by himself, he wouldn't have said anything. But 4 people saw the Mothman that day. It couldn't have been just a figment of his imagination. Reporters were skeptical, naturally. Folks believed the Mothman was nothing more than an overgrown owl or an eagle. The reporters did print Mallett's description of the creature. It was like a man with wings. More and more sightings began to occur, and the legend of the Mothman started to take shape. The Gettysburg Times reported 8 additional sightings 3 days after the first report. They included 2 volunteer firefighters who said they saw a huge bird with glowing red eyes. One Salem, West Virginia, resident reported seeing strange patterns on his television and then hearing mysterious noises outside his home. As he shined a flashlight towards the direction of the noise, he witnessed 2 red eyes glowing like reflectors back at him. That this fearsome creature stole a beloved pet. Some believe that Mothman was even responsible when the resident's dog went missing. So is there any scientific reasoning for the Mothman? Is there a natural creature that can be placed in all of these sightings? Dr. Robert L. Smith, an associate professor of wildlife at West Virginia University, stated that a flying monster was never stalking the town. He attributed it to the sightings of Dr. Robert L. Smith, an associate professor of wildlife at West Virginia University, stated that a flying monster was never stalking the town. He attributed the sightings to a large sandhill crane, which stands as tall as a man, and it has bright red skin around its eyes. Some people took this explanation and ran with it, stating that the crane must have been deformed, especially if it lived in a nearby area, that was once filled with nearby bunkers used to manufacture munitions during World War II. Perhaps these bunkers leaked toxic chemicals into the wildlife preserve and created a monster crane. Another theory suggests that the Mothman was just a prank, and when the press began to report on the topic, people in the small town of Point Pleasant started to panic. Locals were convinced that they saw Mothman daily, and it's worth noting that the Mothman's physical appearance resembles several types of demons encountered during bouts of sleep paralysis. Maybe these visions are nothing more than human fears incarnate, a trick of the mind, a strange entity pulled from the subconscious of fearful locals. On December 15th, 1967, just over a year after the Mothman was first seen, the Silver Bridge was packed with cars. The bridge was placed under extreme strain. The bridge was initially made for lighter cars, Model Ts, that only weighed about 1,500 pounds. Modern cars were over 4,000. The bridge engineers weren't too cautious or imaginative when creating the bridge, and when one part of the bridge failed, the rest followed suit. Without warning, a single eye bar near the top of the bridge on the Ohio side cracked. The chain snapped and the bridge fell to pieces, plunging people and cars into the icy waters of the Ohio River below. 46 people died by drowning, hypothermia, or just being crushed by the wreckage. The bridge collapse was the second bizarre thing that put Point Pleasant on the map, following the Mothman sightings. It wasn't long before the two cases were connected, and the Mothman was blamed for the bridge's failure.
Mothman really fits right in with the long history that we have of seeing winged creatures, flying humanoids, big birds. They've had many different monstrous names down through history. And it really starts from the times of the ancient Babylonians up until, a month ago.
We're just bewildered. There were a few who were very afraid to go out of their house at night. It did cast a shadow over the whole valley. Well, what did you see?
No, I was looking at it in the sky, and then all of a sudden it just, it sort of stuck right in the trees, and it kind of moved around a little, and it looked like, it's trying to get away.
And I just kind of froze. It was terrifying. Last time seen nothing, that was enough.
There's very little humor in these stories. These are people who are genuinely terrified or genuinely puzzled.
John Keel became convinced that something very serious and very real was going on. But no one knew what it was, why it was there, or what it meant. More sightings would be reported, and not just of the creature. The situation was about to become even more terrifying.
Point Pleasant's fame as home of the Mothman continues to this day. Movies and books have been written about the subject, and the Mothman has been kept very much alive throughout the decades. There even exists the idea that the Mothman predicts disasters. He is seen standing atop the newly constructed bridge just before disasters, including the Mexican swine flu outbreak of 2009 and even the 2011 nuclear disaster in Fukushima, Japan. Sightings of the Mothman have slowly declined since the 1960s, but ever so often, a sighting emerges. In 2016, a man who had recently moved to the area saw a creature jumping from tree to tree, just like the original report. He claimed that he had been unaware of the legend, but until he saw the beast himself. The legend of the Mothman lives on in museums. A 12-foot-tall chrome statue of the beast and Mothman plushies being held in the arms of children as they visit the many gift shops of the town. There is even a Mothman festival, which celebrates one of America's strangest local legends. This party attracts locals and visitors alike, like moths to a flame. So what do you think? Has a fortune-telling demon entered the airspace in West Virginia? Or is this just a case of mistaken identity?